Well, hello there, and welcome to this tutorial on creating custom paintings in Minecraft, such as the one you can see here right next to my bony body. I am currently on my survival multiplayer server, the Skellyverse, to show you this particular map because it was created in survival, and I want to get that out of the way first, that this entire process I'm going to be showing you here today can be done in survival without any cheats or op privileges on the server. Now, if you're already in creative mode or you have cheats enabled, it can be a lot faster and easier, and we'll touch on that a little bit. But this is entirely doable in survival and survival multiplayer, even on vanilla servers. So, while I give you a bit of an introduction to the topic, let's watch a satisfying time lapse of me actually creating this painting on the server. There's a link in the description to the full Let's Play of the episode if you would like to see it, but this will give you a good overview of the main concept at work here. So the basic idea here is that you place down blocks in a 128 by 128 flat space within the boundaries of a map, which when rendered gives you a painting or pixel art of your choice to proudly hang on your wall in your Minecraft build. Now, people use this technique for a lot of things like logos, newspapers, decorative wallpaper, infinity rooms, and of course, custom paintings. Obviously, you could just do what it says on the tin and painstakingly place 16,384 blocks in a 128 by 128 grid in your world freehand, or while looking at a reference image on a second monitor or something. But faced with just that task in my own Minecraft world, I found myself wondering, how can we get the same end result more efficiently, more easily, and more importantly, with pixel perfect accuracy within the confines of a vanilla survival multiplayer server? Well, as it turns out, you still do have to place the blocks, at least if you're working in a survival world, more on that later, but there are a lot of places to get help and techniques to use and mods to avail ourselves of that make this process much less tedious, and all of that and more is exactly what we'll be going over today. So, let's get started. Okay, so here we are in a brand new world created just for this tutorial. So first things first, how do maps work in Minecraft? Well, simply put, they're topographical representations of the world in the palm of your blocky little hand. Each block on the ground will be represented as a pixel on our map. So a grass block will be green and a sand block will be sand colored, and so on. As a quick aside, it's noteworthy that the higher a block is in the world, the lighter the color will be. This really only comes into play if you get into advanced map making methods like the staircase method, and it won't really affect us here. The main motivation for us to build flat is to enable us to use the techniques that I'll be presenting later. To start with, you can create a map from 8 paper and a compass, and a compass is made from 4 iron and a redstone. So if we look up compass, create that, and then we just need to surround a compass with some paper, and boom, we have an empty map. So fittingly called empty map. Imagine that. So when you first right click it while holding it, it's automatically going to start to load the area around you in the default 128 by 128 grid with north facing up. Now you'll see something odd here. Chances are when you first open your map, you won't be in the center. That's because maps in Minecraft are all aligned to a specific grid starting 64 blocks in all cardinal directions around 00 in the world. To illustrate this, for example, I can teleport myself to 00 to be exactly in the center of the world, and if we open a new map, we should be directly in the middle, and you can see that up and down and left and right, 64 blocks from the center of where we are right now. And if I was to move 64 blocks north in this direction and open a new map, then we're going to be in the bottom of that grid. Like so. So, why does this matter? Well, this is actually very important to know, because that means if we want to find a suitable area for our map, we need to be aware that we are stuck in this grid as is. Anywhere we open a map in the world will be somewhere within one of these grids, and that means it won't always be easy to find a flat area. And that brings us to our next section, finding the perfect spot. So we know that maps are aligned to the grid, and we know that we want to place down a lot of blocks in a fairly flat space to get the effect that we want. So how do we find the best spot to do that? Well, there are a few options. First, we know that water is always flat, so we could, in theory, create our map over water, but there are some issues with this. If our design uses any gravity blocks, they're obviously just going to fall right into the water. And that is no good. So we could either lay down 16,000 base blocks, which is a huge investment in time and resources, or we could just find a desert biome that's already relatively flat and dig out the rest. For one thing, this makes placement a lot easier and less redundant, and secondly, it gives us the chance to gather up a whole lot of sand, which could be handy if we're planning to make use of concrete in our design. Now, that does beg another question: what materials should I use in my design? And to answer that question, we're going to hop over to a different world. There are a lot of different options for colored materials in the Minecraft world, but they almost all fall into a set of 16 colors along with a muted version of each and some odd highlights. Almost all the blocks that are already available in the 16 colors in-game will give you the exact same result on a map, whether it's wool, concrete powder, glazed terracotta, or even stained glass. So you can see all these materials on the left here turn out to be the exact same color when they're represented on the map. This includes the stained glass, which is down here. That's just over here on the right hand side to give a contrast to these other colors. You can see the colors at the top, those are regular terracotta, these right here, which give you a nice muted tone. And then there are some random odd highlight blocks that give you brighter colors than even the original ones over there. So your choice of palette will probably be based around practical considerations, like if you already have a massive wool farm, or if you feel like taking the time to mine out terracotta, sand, gravel, or if you've previously built any farms for dyes that would be needed for mass production of colored blocks like concrete. I will say that given the amount of work involved in gathering, wool is probably your best choice. You can literally start with one sheep of each color and then just passively farm wool from it with a simple redstone contraption. But before you choose your material of choice, let's look at a tool that will give us a lot of advantages when it comes to visualizing the end result, and in fact, even doing a lot of the hard work for us. By far, one of the most helpful things I've found for making custom paintings in Minecraft is this MCStacker Minecraft Mural Generator website. This site allows you to upload an image, rescale it to a specific block dimension, choose the materials you want it to be constructed of, and it gives you a preview of what it might look like in-game. It will even allow you to download function files that will create your design in your own creative world for you, which we will get to in a moment. But first, let's walk through the interface. So right off the bat, we have to select the image we want to use. For the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to use this Screaming Shy Guy. So let's upload the image from our Incredible Arts folder. And then our first task is to resize it using this scale box to make sure that the longest side of our design is no more than 128 blocks wide or tall. Because remember, the default scale of the in-game map is 128 by 128 blocks. So if our image is bigger than that, it won't fit into one map. Now you could use multiple maps, but that's a lot more complicated and a lot more blocks. Trust me, over 16,000 is more than you want to gather and place down already. So we will just tweak our scale number until we see that our image fits within 128 blocks. And keep in mind that the map is a square, so you'll want to use an already square image or crop one down to the part of it you like the most. So for our image, it looks like the scale is right around 0.429, which gives us a perfect 128 by 128 image because I've already taken the original and cropped it down to a perfect square ratio. Next up, we need to look at the placement, which in this case means how will the commands this site generate be arranged in the world? If you want to create a painting that sits in the world that you're going to actually look at instead of using a map feature, these first 4 options will allow you to create a massive tower of blocks. For use with a map though, since they always face north, we want the 7th option. On the ground, top of image is to the north, -Z. Next, we need to select our blocks. Now, keep in mind that this allows you to select pretty much any block to build your design from, and it includes many that don't make a lot of practical sense if you're building something to be represented by an in-game map. If you recall from earlier, we're limited to only a few different colors, and our material choice should be based on that and not what the actual blocks themselves look like. Unless, of course, you are building something that you want to look at outside of the map, in which case, choose whatever material you like. In our case, since we're building for a map, we'll just go ahead and select wool for the basic colors. So the first thing, we're going to exclude them all. The next thing, we're going to take wool and include it. And then, based on our experimentation in the creative world, we're going to select terracotta blocks for the muted tones to make the best use of the cheapest and most diverse available map colors. Now note that if you do select terracotta, you'll get the glazed variety as well. And since those are the exact same color on the map as our much cheaper wool, you'll want to go back and select them and then exclude them. Okay, so next we can click this show/update preview button and then zoom out a little bit, and we can see roughly what our creation will look like on an in-game map. If you want to add a little more depth to your painting other than just the standard colors and the muted tones, you can go back through and add in some of the highlight blocks that we saw in the test world, and that'll give you a little bit more color depth to work with. So I'm going to go through and select some of those and then update the preview. Again, keep in mind what's shown here is the actual block texture. You zoom in, you can see these are literally the actual texture in-game of the block, which, as we know, will then be translated into solid colors on the map. So the end result is going to look a little different. Okay, so next we have a few options on how we can get our design into the world. For our purposes, we're going to choose step 5, option A, to download the data pack, which is by far the easiest and most convenient way to go. So let's give our mural a custom name and download the file. Okay, for the next step, you have to have a creative test world already set up. So inside Minecraft, we can actually just select the world we want, click edit, and then click Open World folder. And this should take us right to the profile folder for this saved game. Inside here, we just need to go into the Datapacks folder and drop off the zip file we downloaded from the Mural generator earlier. With that done, let's head into the world. Okay, so we're in our map test world. Ignore this. This is some other map testing I was doing, but we need to do a few things here before we can run the function inside the data pack we downloaded. First, we need to get a map, and we need to open it to make sure that we are going to be lined up correctly here. Now, to do that, we need to find the bottom left corner of the map grid area, as that is where we are going to want to generate our design from. In this case, I already know where it is because I was generating maps based on the grid, but if you don't know, you can use F to put the map in your offhand and then use a bright colored block like redstone to sort of poke around and find your corner. Now you can see there's a dot right there down in the corner, and that is the exact corner of this map grid that we want to use. So next, I want to stand on the exact corner, but one block above where I want the mural to lay. So I'm going to place one more block here and make sure that I'm facing north, which is up on the map. So I want to be right here. Now it's time to create our mural. Next, we can open chat by pressing T and then type in /function and then press space. Now, if this is a new world and this is the only data pack you have loaded, it should pre-populate the only existing function, in this case the Mural, which is our mural design. So press tab to autocomplete and then enter to run the function, and lo and behold, your design now exists. So let's go ahead and take the map back into our main hand here. Ba-doop. And just fly around to fill out the world a little bit here. Beautiful. Now, if you want to know exactly how the finished product is going to look, grab a few blocks and an item frame and plop the map in there. And you can see this is exactly what our painting is going to look like in our survival world when we're all done placing all these blocks. Ooh. Very nice. Now, if you want to make any changes to the block palette or design, now would be the time to do it. Head back to the Mural site, update what you want to update, re-download the file, place it in the folder, and then regenerate the function. If you do want to replace the function file in the folder, make sure you exit the game first, because otherwise you're not going to be able to delete the old file. But you can just place that file back in that same folder, reload the game, stand back in the exact right spot, and then just run the function again. It's going to overwrite all the existing blocks, but that's not really going to matter. So now we've got our painting in our test world, and if all you want to do is create a custom painting in a creative world or on a creative server, you're done. But if you're looking to recreate this on a survival world or an SMP server, we've got a bit more work ahead of us. And for the next step, we're gonna need a mod. The first step is to make sure we're running a loader that allows mods. For this demo, I'm gonna use what I recommend, Fabric Loader. There's a link to the Fabric website in the description below, and you'll need to go there and download the Fabric installer. Once you've downloaded it, follow the instructions on the site to create a moddable profile of the game. Once you've got that complete, you should have a mods folder in your profile, and you can get a mod that's going to make our task a lot easier. That mod is called Litematica. Litematica is a blueprinting mod for Minecraft. It allows you to create an in-game blueprint of a design for use in recreating it somewhere else. I use this mod all the time because I tend to design things in creative first and then build them in survival using the Litematica blueprint as a guide. It also really helps with material lists, which we'll look at here in a second. So grab the Litematica download for your version of game and loader, pop it in your mods folder, and then head back into your test world. Okay, so we're back in game and we want to create a blueprint of our design. However, for this step, we need to turn off shaders. I've seen Litematica work before, depending on what version of the game we're in and what version of Optifine is going on, but as a general rule, it doesn't work great when shaders are on. So just temporarily, we will disable my beloved shaders. Un momento, por favor. Okay, so there we are. We're in the game without shaders. How drab and fantastic. It doesn't really change the way that maps are rendered, the shaders, but just something to be aware of. It does tend to mess with Litematica and some other mods. Press M to bring up, by default, the Litematica menu. And the first thing we want to do is go into the area selection menu item. And from here, we're going to create a new selection and call it something we can recognize later, like Shy Guy. Boom. Now, make sure that there's a white outline around the selection, which means that what we select in game will be associated with this selection. So if you accidentally click it, you're not going to have anything in game to select, so make sure that's on. All right, so next thing, we're going to need a stick, which is the control mechanism for Litematica. So with the stick in hand, hold down Control on the keyboard and scroll with your mouse wheel to change the mode until we reach mode 1. You might have been there already, but just in case you're not, that's how you move between them. And you can see in the lower left-hand corner what mode you are in, and the fact that we are selecting an area for our Shy Guy. So once we're in the correct mode, right-click the first block of your art. Ooh, look at that. You'll notice we now have a selection box, and you can move this box around by holding Alt and scrolling on the scroll wheel. The box is going to move depending on what direction you're facing. So if I hold Alt and I scroll up, the box is going to go that way. If I scroll down, it's going to go that way. If I change directions here, same thing applies, just in the different cardinal directions. Now you can move the other side of the selection box by middle clicking with the mouse, the other box. And then we can zoom that one around as well. So now we just need to fly around and make sure that our selection is just for the blocks we need for our painting. So for example, if we make this corner right here, boop, oops, to get it to go down, you need to look down. Boop, boop, there you go. And then we'll select this guy. I'm gonna fly over here and select this other side. All right, perfect. Now, once we're happy with the selection, hit Control-Alt-S on your keyboard by default to bring up the save window. Give your creation a name if it doesn't have one already, but it should, and then hit save. Boom. We have a schematic of our painting that we can bring with us into any world. Now we can go into the world where we want to create our final artwork and start building. But first, let's look at another handy feature of Litematica. So if we use M to go back in the menu here, go to load schematics and then select our shy guy, we can hit this button down here called material list. And what that will show us is a rundown of exactly how much of each block we will need to recreate this schematic. If you hover over each one, you can see it will give you not only a total amount, but a stack amount. So you can start to plan out how much of everything you need and organize them into shulker boxes. You can also write this entire list to CSV so you can do some quick maths with your material list. The file it generates can be found in your Minecraft profile folder under config, then Litematica. Here's an example of how I broke down my list in Excel to give me the ability to calculate total stacks, total filled shulker boxes, and extra, just to make it easier to gather it up in game. The good thing about Litematica is it is profile based, so every schematic I create in this world will be available in any other world I load on this folder. So if we go up a little bit, you can see I actually have quite a few things that I have saved over time in creating the Skellyverse series. And these are things that I roughed out in creative first, figured out how they needed to work, and then I could bring them in game and actually build them manually based on the blueprint. So let's go ahead and look at that. We will head over to the world where we want to place our final work and see how the other side of this looks. Okay, so now we're in our destination world where we want to place our final work, and we found a flattish map area, and we've even marked out the corner. So all we have to do is load up the schematic and use the same controls, Alt plus the scroll wheel, to line up the design perfectly with our edge marker. And to do this, we will need a stick. Now keep in mind, in actual practice, we would be doing this in a survival world, right? There's no reason to do this in a creative world. I'm just doing it here for ease of demonstration. We need to hit M again to load up the Schematica menu, and then we need to go to load schematics, and we need to find our shy guy. You'll notice there's a box down here that says create placement. That's just going to automatically generate our blueprint, so we don't have to do that step. So we'll hit load schematic, and it's going to tell us, yeah, it's been loaded. And here it is over here. Now these blocks aren't real. They're just ghostly images of what should be there based on your schematic. So the first thing that we need to do is move it to where we need it to be. So using the same controls as earlier, Alt plus the scroll wheel under the schematic placement mode, we can actually shuffle this right into the spot we need it to be. Okay. Great. And we can verify in our map that that redstone dot in the lower left-hand corner is the exact corner there. So this should be exactly where we want the corner of this schematic, and then we can just do a double check up here to make sure that we actually carved out the correct space, and it does look like it. Everything is lining up perfectly. And in fact, I think I put, yeah, there's my other redstone guide over here. Now, Litematica does have another trick up its sleeve, so to speak, which can save us a lot of time. It's in the settings, it's called Easy Place Mode. So if we go back into settings in the configuration menu, you can see it right here, Easy Place Mode and Easy Place Mode hold enabled. With the first one enabled, you can use the middle click button on any block in the schematic, and that block will be placed in your hand from your inventory, which will greatly increase the speed that you can place down blocks. This is the same as the block select function that's already available in vanilla Minecraft. It can't select the block if you don't have it in your inventory, but if you do fill up your inventory with all the colors you're going to need, it makes things a lot easier. The second option does the same thing, but without having to click every time. So essentially you can just hold down right click and walk around, and Litematica will do the work of selecting the block and placing it instantly for you. Very, very convenient feature, and can save you a lot of time on your 16,000 block masterpiece. Oh no, 'tis night. So just to demonstrate this, I'm going to throw some blocks. Actually, here's what we're going to do. Okay, so I've set my game mode to survival after giving myself some gray terracotta and some gray wool, just to kind of give you an example of how this works. If you look in the upper right hand corner, you can see that Litematica will actually show us what block is in the schematic in that place. So right now this is green terracotta, gray terracotta, and then over here there's some gray wool. So if you have a general idea of what type of block you're going to be placing, you can just put a bunch of those in your inventory and kind of run through and spread the blocks out. So the first mode, which is easy place, if we set that on, that means if I middle click, it's going to put this block in my hand. And if I click this wool, see it changed to gray wool. If I click this terracotta, it changes to terracotta. And then I can just place the blocks down as I go, and you can see it kind of fills them out. There we go, just like that. Now the other option, Easy Place Mode Hold Enabled, means that I can just right click and it's going to pull these blocks out of my inventory and put them in my hand for me to place them down. Now if I don't have the blocks in my inventory, obviously it's not going to be able to do it, such as this green terracotta here. It's just going to leave that one blank. But if you have large swaths of a particular color, like I said, just fill up your inventory, walk around, hold down right click, and the design pretty much makes itself. Very, very helpful. This does work, by the way, on servers where you're in survival, you don't have any op modes, it's not creative. This is just client-side functionality of the mod helping you by picking the block out from your inventory and placing it on the ground. Not cheaty in the slightest. But since we are in a creative test world, I do want to show you how you can use Litematica to actually place all the blocks for you if you just want to create something on a creative server or you want to just play around with what it can do. For this, we'll need our control stick, and then we select mode 5, which is paste schematic in world. Now by default, there's no hotkey assigned for this, so we need to go into the Litematica configuration menu, into hotkeys, and then execute operation. I'm going to put it keypad number 8. And then when I'm in this mode and I'm holding the stick, I can press 8, and there we go. Again, you need op permission on a server or to be in a creative world for this particular function to work, because it actually executes commands in the background. In other words, this doesn't work in survival. But placing the blocks down manually using the schematic and having it help you pick the blocks, that does work in survival. In summary, using these techniques, I was able to create the painting you saw in the time lapse at the beginning on my survival server in around 2 hours. Now that's only placing the blocks. It took a whole lot longer to farm up all the supplies needed and flatten the land out and all of that, but still, I think it was worth the effort. When you do go to place the actual blocks, I recommend working on large chunks of color instead of trying to just place all the blocks in a row. For example, in our painting there's a lot of black and green, so I'd probably just start by filling my inventory with those colors and then placing a lot of those down in one go. If you knock out the colors that are close together and in big chunks first, you can make more efficient use of your inventory space and save some time going back and forth to your block supply chest. So, hopefully the tips and tricks that I've shown you today will help you in creating your own custom painting in Minecraft and have a lot of fun doing it. If you're interested to see more about the Bob Ross painting I created in the Skellyverse, there's a link in the description to that episode, and of course many more on the channel you can check out if you want to stick around. So if you learned something or you liked what you saw, go ahead and give this video a like, subscribe if you want to see more content like this or the wacky shenanigans I get up to on my SMP server. That's about it. So, until next time, peace out.